Telecommunications Union, that is ITU. So first, understand what is telecommunication. Telecommunication involves carrying of voice, data, or image signals between different users along the different networks. So these networks consist of at least two key technological components. That is, first thing is the transmission equipment, and other one is the switching technology. So here the characteristics of these components play a very important role in determining the kind of services that can be provided to each network, and also the cost involved in this providing of networks. So in earlier decades, developments in transmission and switching, they have transport, uh, and also we have seen they have evolved along with the nature of telecommunication with the advent of ICTs. So these developments, they include a huge increase in the carrying capacity because it has increased, right? And also here, when we talk about the intelligence of these network, which can be traced to the digital switching. Now we have moved from analog to digital. So these technical changes have been accompanied by this rapid proliferation, means the penetration of networks. If we talk about the history of ITU, so ITU, it owes its birth to the development of the telegraph way back in 1837. Because when the telegraph was first introduced in England in the year 1837, and later it was introduced in US, United States, in the year 1844. Because then after the advent of telegraph, it was very quickly recognized as a revolution in communication because telegraph was the first step in the era of communication. Then 10 years after the introduction of telegraph in the US, most European nations have established their own telegraph networks. So what is a telegraph? Right? Earlier they used to send messages through telegraph. A telegraph message sent to neighboring state at that time had to be transmitted to the border first. Then it needs to be transcribed. Then again, it used to be physically carried across the borders, or what we call as frontiers. And then later it was transmitted to its final destination. So this was the process then. So efforts by individual governments that time to eliminate the time and expense which was involved in the process resulted in series of some agreements, bilateral or what we call as multilateral agreements between the nations. So though it was not the first agreement of this kind that time, the convention or the meeting that formed this union was European Telegraph Union. Then later, it was renamed as ITU. Okay. So the International Telegraph Union, the ITU, was created in 1865. Okay. Where representatives of 20 European states met in Paris and they coordinate to set the standards for telegraph systems that time in Europe. So this 1865 International Telegraph Conference established the basic principles, that covered matters of administrative details like interworking of equipment and operating procedures, the cost involved, and also a settlement of accounts between nations. All these things were discussed in the conference. So ITU was founded in Paris in the year 1865. Okay. And it was formed in order to monitor the development of the telegraph, which was a very new invention at that time, 1865, right? So with the development of the other systems, particularly radio, the name was changed to its present because earlier it was not named as ITU. Okay. Then again in 1947, ITU entered into agreement with the UN, with the United Nations, and thereby it became special agencies for telecommunication. And the Secretariat of ITU is based in Geneva and it works at various levels. Okay. It cooperates with other organizations and works at various levels for the improvement. Typically, through various administrative conferences, ITU makes decisions regarding its various functions.
The
Okay.
sound rather.
So, understood what is ITU? So, ITU is specialized agencies of the UN, United Nations, that was created to encourage international cooperation in all forms of telecommunication, and now it also involves ICTs. So, right now, with the advent of ICTs, the main functions of ITU are, to allocate frequencies to different countries to avoid interference in each other's matters. Then also they set standards on technical and operational matters. And also a majority of these ITU, they are, right now they are bridging the digital divide gap by building adequate and safe information and communication infrastructure also. And also they're developing confidence in the use of cyberspace among nations through uh, what we call as enhanced online security, okay, which is safe for people to operate. And also these ITU concentrates on strengthening emergency communications for disaster, okay, like disaster prevention and mitigation, especially for these developing nations or third world nations, the developing regions. So this ITU has fostered the creation of telecommunication in also these newly independent countries, which has recently achieved freedom, or what we call as developing countries, to promote safety measures also, and also to they also undertake studies in the area of telecommunications in these countries. Okay, so conferences are held once in 4 years of this ITU, and the general policies are discussed here, where they elect various members and officers of the organizations every 4 years. Okay. So, talking about the membership, here this organization is based on public-private partnership since its inception. So, ITU currently has a membership of 193 countries, and also they have 700 private sector entities, and even the academic institutions are also involved here. So, this ITU membership represents a cross-section of global, people like ICT sectors from the world's largest manufacturers, and also small scale industries or startups, innovative players. They are also involved, and they are working with new and emerging technologies. And also, there is research and development institutions, banks, and academics. Then we have all these institutions tied up with ITU, and it has its global presence. It is headquartered in Geneva, which is in Switzerland. So here the major objectives or the major task of ITU also include developing standards for radio communication systems. As I said earlier, they allocate frequencies to ensure the effective use of this frequency spectrum. And also they undertake studies concerning the development of radio communication systems in these countries, member countries. Okay. So here, specialists and experts are called or drawn from various industries, the public sector, the research and development entities. They tie up, they meet regularly to look into the matters regarding the technical specifications of these organizations. Okay, and they see how they can tie up and make today's, this ICT networks available to all the member countries, the developing nations. And also they will facilitate the access to free access to global markets. That means they'll allow for economies for a scale product. Okay, so it is regulated body. Okay, ITU. There are also some problems which is dealt in regulation, because the existing regulatory system for this commercial communication, it has wide range of problems because of the accessibility involved in the member countries, because few are developing nations and underdeveloped nations which are part of these organizations. So it's a overburdened task for managing all these applications. It is a regulatory body. So there are very obviously there are some drawbacks also which has to be looked into whenever they meet, and also there are criticisms in the context of assuming different roles and perception about this organization. Okay, clear? So we have another such kind of organization, that is IPI. So this IPI, it was founded on the belief that a free press would contribute to the creation of better world. This is the logic, or this is the motive behind the creation of this organization. Okay, you are able to get where I am an International Press Institute, IPI. So here the idea for this organization evolved after the Second World War, because after the Second World War, there was extreme press manipulations for even propaganda was involved that time. And it is also fresh in the memory of many countries, like how lower journalistic standards were taking place at that time. Journalism profession was very low, and then the consequences of the war also increased the economic pressure among countries, and there was world inequality that time. This is the time where countries were divided into all these three categories, right? The underdeveloped, developed countries. So it was that at that point of time that IPI came into existence. So on May 16th, 1951, the establishment of IPI was formally declared. So the first office with the original staff of 4 was set up earlier in Switzerland. Okay. So in its first decade, IPI was very active in Europe and the United States. And also a conference was held in Paris in 1951, the first conference. So later in the year 2000, there was another conference which was founded or held again in France. And later, many conferences were held to discuss the freedom of press. The International Press Institute, which was launched again in 1950 by a group of 34 editors, also merged with this organization. So IPI was created on a simple promise that a free press would contribute to the creation of a better world. So this is the motive. We have to remember that. This is the main objective of this organization, on the basic principle on which this organization works. So this organization has members over 120 countries. And also it is on par with the UNESCO and other, such organizations. And it is headquartered in Austria, Vienna. So the major takeaway here is that this IPI monitors press freedom around the world, and also it responds to threats and attacks on journalists and media outlets. They also send protest letters to governments and all non-governmental organizations to monitor. And these threats are often brought to this organization's attention by its member countries. So be it in any country, they follow up and they write letters to the government, and also many of whom these journalists who experience such difficulties are given assistance. Okay, clear? See, in many countries, journalists continue to be attacked for the reporting, especially in the underdeveloped nations or war conflict zones, right? So each year, so many journalists, dozens of journalists are killed, and many are beaten, or what we can say, they are harassed or imprisoned, kidnapped, and they are even tortured, right? We have been hearing so many cases of journalists. So on these many occasions, these organizations like IPI, they assist and they provide security to the journalists and all these inhuman activities which have been taking place are being exposed with the help of this organization. Okay. They also use censorship to conceal themselves. Like they scrutiny or monitor all the activities that is going on in the profession. As I told you, the main principle is the freedom, right? Freedom to journalists, freedom of press. Okay, so they promote basically press freedom. And then there are so many protests which have been taken place, and how there are so many stories, or there are so many case studies which IPI have, protected the journalists, and they have also bring into limelight the plight of journalists in the international community. They also express solidarity with journalists who are victims of all these things. So the use of protest is very much, elaborated or tolerated by this democratic world. So you can go through the case studies of IPI. Okay. And also this IPI, they scrutinize or monitor media laws in each country and provide governments with recommendations on how to bring, press freedom or legislation in line with the internationally accepted standards in freedom of expression. So when we talk about funds, they get funds, okay, from NGOs, international NGOs, or this fund. It's a means to undertake missions to countries, right? They are working internationally. They have around 80 regional offices. So they get funds from NGOs, sometimes from the governments and institutions also. Okay. And IPI has also received many awards, internationally acclaimed awards also for its functioning on press freedom. So clear about IPI? Yes. If you have any doubt, you can. No doubts? Okay. So have you heard about WTO, World Trade Union? World Trade Union or WTO, World Trade Organization? The World Trade Organization or WTO is an international organization which it was established to supervise and liberalize the world trade, the trade between the nations, between the world. Okay. Earlier, the WTO was called as ITO, that is International Trade Union. Later, they changed its name from ITO to WTO, World Trade Organization. So, what WTO does is it monitors the trade and agreement. It's an integral part of the nations that look into the matters of trade between the nations. Okay, the trade agreement, services, how to liberalize the trade. Okay, and also other related aspects like IPR, that is intellectual property rights. Okay, and also they sought to improve protection of all these IPR, that is intellectual property rights across the nations or the borders. They also set rules and procedures governing the settlements of disputes between nations, which sometimes emerge on trade policies, right? Or they also resolve conflicts between the member nations. So right now, WTO, World Trade Organization, has more than 140 members. So WTO is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. And also it sets up rules for the global trading systems. And as I told you, it also resolves disputes between the member nations on all these aspects. And WTO also covers trading services such as telecommunications and banking, and also other issues, as I told you, like intellectual rights. So many recent rulings by this WTO have been aimed at removing non-tariff barriers, like the taxes, particularly setting the standards on imports, and also claiming that they represent fair trade barriers. So the main objective, there are some objectives of each organization. So the objective of WTO is to set and enforce rules for international trade. This is the main objective of the organization. Then again, to provide a platform or a forum for negotiating and also monitoring further trade liberalization. There should be a fair price. And again, the next objective is to resolve the trade disputes, then to increase the transparency. That means transparency in the sense in decision-making processes for each nation. There should be standardized rules for all the countries in imports and export. That means in the matters of trade. And again, to cooperate with other major international economic institutions which are involved in this global economic management. Okay. That means in the trade policies. And next is to help developing countries benefit from this global trading systems. That means there should be a fair price system. And also this WTO also, apart from intellectual property, they also deal with investment policies as well. That means if you want to invest in a member country, there should be a fair trade system investment as well. Okay. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. So they attempt to protect the interest of small and weak countries first, because the underdeveloped and developing nations against the discriminatory trade practices that has been carrying out from a very long decade from the large and powerful countries. That means from the developed nations like USA and UK. And secondly, here the rules, they require members to limit trade only through the tariffs. That is the tax system to provide market access to people. Like people are free to trade. There is no limitation here. Here the rules are designed to help the government, they can prevent them from this government, they can prevent the member countries from lobbying. You understand, right? What is lobbying? So there is no, in accordance with the international system, there is no favorism that is taking place here. So it is governed by the rules of the land. So they have also they have provide resolution to trade disputes as well. There's so many case studies. Then trade policy reviews also they have taken care of. And obviously, every organization, apart from the objectives, and also there are some criticism which has been, even WTO has faced many criticisms. They have been criticized and opposed by developed nations because they are worried about the effects of free trade and economic globalization. Developed world is always worried about that, right? So it is also argued that free trade does not make ordinary people's lives more easy. They are of that opinion. What they believe is that it is actually widening the gap between the rich and the poor by making, you have heard this, right? They are making rich countries more richer and poor countries are becoming more poor. So this is because the influential nations in the WTO members, they focus on their own commercial interests. Each member countries will focus on their country, right? So this is the criticism. levied on the World Trade Organization. Okay. Here also you can go through the case studies on the disputes which they have resolved. Okay. The trade agreements which or the standards they have set up for countries. All these things can be studied. Okay, clear? World Trade Organization. Then we have another organization called as IFJ. That is International Federation of Journalists. So the International Federation of Journalists is the world's largest organization of journalists. So it was first established in the year 1926 and again it was relaunched in the year 1946. And then again the major change took place in the year 1952, the revamp. So today this organization represents around more than 6 lakhs members in more than 100 countries. That is, it is a very big organization for journalists. And here the main office or the headquarter is located in Belgium, Brussels, Belgium. And the official language of this organization is English. The first official language is English, followed by French and Spanish. Okay. So this organization, the IFJ, promotes international action to defend the press freedom and also the social justice through strong, free, and independent trade union of journalists. That means this is a union of journalists. And here this organization speaks for journalists within the United Nations systems. And also they operate within the international trade union movement. That is the biggest trade movement for journalists. They support journalists and their unions wherever they are fighting for their rights, the professional rights. Okay. And also they sometimes provide international safety funds also to protect the journalists, and also they provide aid for journalists who are in need. So the organization's policy is decided by a meeting which meets, like they have conference which meets every 3 years, and they work on the existing systems, and they also work on the feedback provided by the committee. So this organization, they does not subscribe to any political viewpoint. Like they are transparent, they are objective, because they promote human rights, democracy, and pluralism. That means the freedom of expression, freedom for journalists. So this organization is also opposed to discrimination of all kinds, like any no, the use of media as propaganda or to promote intolerance or conflict. So the negative use of media is being opposed by this organization. And they also believes in freedom of political and cultural expression. And also they defend the journalists who and their other basic human rights, which has been violated. So that in short, this organization speaks for journalists within the international frontier, that means international border. And also they support journalists and the unions. That means the unions, every journalist, they have their own union in countries like member countries. So this union can approach the organization for their industrial or professional rights, and also they can claim humanitarian aids for them whenever they are in need. Okay, especially when they are covering conflict area or war zone while reporting. So this organization, the main aim of this organization is to protect and strengthen the rights and freedom of journalists. Okay. So it is also dedicated to, this organization is also working for the solidarity. That means the social justice, the labor rights. Okay. Then globalization. The main aim is to protect the human rights and also the democracy. That means the freedom of speech and expression. And also they help journalists in fighting, in covering the aspects related to fighting poverty and corruption also worldwide. Okay. So this organization has its regional offices in Africa, Latin America, and also this Asia Pacific region. Okay. And they are also concerned with journalism ethics. They have this. They also support ethical journalism. Okay. So this organization, that is IFJ, launched its ethical journalism initiative in the year 2008. Okay, which was a global campaign to defend standards and also to raise awareness of the importance of quality journalism, like supporting objectivity. Okay, and furthering, they also worked on to improve the quality in journalism, which is the main aim. They have focused on the improving the quality of journalism since the inception of this organization. And various studies have been carried out in this area as well by the organization. They fund all these kind of studies. Okay, combat what we call is discrimination, and also they help to promote diversity. So if anybody wants to carry out any study regarding in this area, ethical journalism, this organization also provide fundings. So they have also set up some guidelines on or principles on which the organization functions. Okay, they have like other organizations. They also have their editorial board. Okay, which monitor the interest of the journalists. Okay, the editorial independence is there. And the main objective here is to make available, they want to make studies available into public to journalists. That they want to promote the ethical journalism. Okay. And so globalization, as I told you, it's a major concern for this organization. That means the global communication. So they also help the developing or underdeveloped nations. They supply journalists at their country if they do not have any resources or fundings. They also help with them, help them with all these things. Understood? So there are many instances where journalists have been killed, and so these case studies are also available in the website, okay, of this organization. Like how they have provided aid to journalists, how they have promoted the freedom of expression, how they have promoted ethical journalism. All these things can be taken as a case study. They are also against paid news, combating paid news. That means it's part of ethical journalism. Okay. Then we have something called as Amnesty International. Did anyone hear about Amnesty International? Any idea? Very popular organization.
Yes.
Yes. This Amnesty International is an international non-governmental organization which is focused on, again, human rights. Okay, and it is headquartered in UK, United Kingdom, London. It was founded in the year 28 May 1961. And it has more than 10 million members and supporters around the world. Imagine 10 million, that means it's a very big organization, right? So they help fight abuses or human rights worldwide. Okay, they want to bring justice to people who are suffering. Okay, they do research, detailed research, and also they also do campaigning to create awareness. Okay. So the main objective of this organization, Amnesty International, is to conduct various rigorous research and also to initiate measures to prevent and the injustice or abuses, right, to the victims who have been like they provide justice for the deprived section of the community. That means who are deprived of the basic human rights. And this organization is very much active in India also because it has its operation in India as well. That means if you have any problem, you can directly approach this organization. Like you can through email or you can call. Is it clear? And also, if we talk about the funding of this organization, it is financed largely by subscription or fees or donations from the worldwide membership it has. People, keep donating. You can go through the website as well, and you can directly donate. People, they also sometimes, they accept donations from people, but they are strictly against donations from the governments or government organization because they want to be free from the clutches of any dominant ideology. That means they don't want to be dominated by the governments. So they do not accept any donations or funds from the government or its organizations, but they accept donations from general people. So anybody can go and fund this organization through the website. Okay. And if we talk about the Amnesty International operations in India, this organization was set up first in India in Bihar in the year 1966. So since then, they have been working on cases related to torture or people who are wrongly prisons, like prisoners. Then people who are abused. Then they also fight for human rights and then rights of women. And all such human rights violations have been dealt by this organization since its inception in India. Okay, is it clear? Then we have another organization called Reporters Without Borders. Have you heard Reporters Without Borders? See, this organization again is an international non-profit and non-governmental organization, that is NGO, focused on safeguarding the rights to freedom of information. Okay, it was founded by Robert Menard, and it is headquartered in Paris, France, and it was founded in the year 1985, and it has approximately 100 members here, member countries. Okay. So this organization aimed to defend journalists and media assistants who are imprisoned, wrongly imprisoned or persecuted for doing their job, right? Like IFJ, though it's not as big as the IFJ, but it follows the same principles or guidelines. But here they want to expose the mistreatment and torture which have been levied or carried out to journalists in many countries while doing the job when they are wrongly persecuted or tortured for doing their job. That means if they are mistreated while reporting, so they help these journalists overcome all these abuses. So this is also uh, what is a public funded organization. Okay. And this organization is also called as RSF. That means Reporters Sans Frontier. That means you understand the term, right? Reporters Without Borders. So that is the same thing. Frontier means broader. Reporters Sans means without. Same thing. RSF or Reporters Without Borders. Clear? So basically the main function of this organization is also to defend press freedom, considering the freedom of information, right? They consider freedom of information to be a fundamental right of people, especially the journalists. That means it's the right of the journalist to cover the issue. That means covering the issue in providing information to the people. So information is, vital in this organization. Okay. Clear with Reporters Without Borders? Yes, respond.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Adya, Sirisha, Shiva, clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
If you have any doubt, you can stop me and ask. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Then another organization is IFEX. That is International Freedom of Expression Exchange. So this is a global network of more than 120 independent non-government organization, which works again at local, national, regional, and international level. Okay. And here also the main purpose is to defend and promote the freedom of expression as a human right. So all these organizations which we have been discussing, is the main aim is to promote the freedom of speech, expression, right? Human rights. So this organization was founded in the year 1992, and it has 120 independent organizations worldwide. Okay. See, you can go through the case studies of these organizations on the website. If you open the website, you have a lot of case studies on which they have worked till now. If you want, you can cite those examples in your answers exam. Otherwise, you can just remember the dates, the headquarters, the main objective of the organization, or if any criticism they have. Okay. All these things is enough.
Mostly headquarters are from France
Yeah.
only, ma'am.
France.
Okay.
France and London.
London.
UK.
Okay.
Yes. So I told you, basically the main aim of this organization is to promote global communication. Right? Have you understood, right? While going through all these organizations.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So they have their network, and all these organizations are very, crucial in promotion of international communication or global communication, because they treat and promote freedom of expression as the fundamental human right. Okay, WTO is important question. Please make a note of it. WTO, UNESCO, we discussed earlier also, right? UNESCO. Please take a note. WTO, UNESCO. So, can anybody tell me what do you understand by freedom of speech and expression? What, according to you, is freedom of speech and expression? Freedom of speech and expression. Can anybody tell me in your own understanding? What do you understand if we mean freedom of speech and expression? Is anyone Amjad, Shiva? Freedom of speech and expression. Sirisha? Is anyone answer? Freedom of speech and expression. The freedom of speech is one of the fundamental right? You know that?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So now tell me, what is freedom of speech and expression? Not only to a journalist, to a normal human being. That means you're free to express yourself without any interference. You're free to express your ideas, opinions. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
As a citizen, as a citizen of a democratic nation, you're free to express your opinion, your ideas, your beliefs without any interference from the state, or because it is there in our constitution, right? Preservation of freedom of speech and expression is a fundamental right. So all these organizations work towards this because this is a basic human right. So why are we allowed to express? Why are we allowed to freely express our beliefs and opinions? That we can get involved in decision making, policy making, right? Decision making policies. Common citizens, do you think common citizens should be involved in decision making policies? Their opinions play an important role. Please tell me. We'll have a discussion here.
Yes, madam. We can express our thoughts and ideas to the whenever
Can influence
government.
the government also, right? In policy
Yes,
making, decision making policies.
yes,
If
yes,
and
madam.
only, the general public is aware.
Can you give me one example, madam?
One example of,
Madam,
see, we live in India. India is a democratic country. We live in democratic country. That means freedom of speech and expression is a fundamental right. That means we are free to express our beliefs, concerns, and also we can carry forward all these things to the government that will help in uh, decision making process. So we
yes,
have
madam.
that people have that liberal thing, especially during the elections also through opinion polls, and media here play a very important role. Media is the platform to bridge the gap between the people and the government. So media plays an important role in disseminating information, sensitizing people, and creating awareness. Where people after getting information, it's the job of the media to provide information and leave it to the public, to the general public to decide. Okay, we are not supposed to give any opinion as journalists or media organizations. We just have to provide the information to the people, and people will take their own, after getting sensitized, they will take their own decision and will, they provide their feedback to the governments.
Yes, madam. I can say one example, madam. While
Yes.
AP and Telangana react in divided movement, the committee taken lot of feedback from the people, and the feedback sent back to the central government, the Sri Krishna committee, I think.
Sri Krishna committee, yes, very good. So what was the outcome?
State divided, madam. Telangana AP.
Yeah, organized. And also now they're working on the reorganization. That means the joint capital was only for 10 years. They agreed for 10
Yes,
years.
madam. Yes, yes, madam.
So that means now they are in deadline. It's already been 10 years.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
But they are not utilizing the capital, not capital.
Yes, yes. So here, do you think
CP.
general people can play a role, right?
Yes.
People of these two states, they have the right to give their opinion, like what do they feel, and they can also influence the decision making process. Like,
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
will they want to continue with this same state, or they want a separate state? Here, people can also influence the decision making process. As you said, they didn't utilize the resources which have been given to them for 10 years, last 10 years.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. But
Yeah.
they are not utilizing, madam. They are separated from us, and they are making
Yes,
their
yes.
own
That means
capital.
people are not sensitized there. People are not aware.
Yeah.
It was the job of the media organizations, journalists to sensitize people regarding this issue. They could have utilized in the last 10 years, as you said, the resources, the claim.
Yes, madam.
Hmm. So here, ownership of media also play a very important role. Who owns the media? That plays very important role. So this thing we'll discuss in the next class, like ownership and economics of international communication. As we discussed earlier, the media conglomerates who owns most media organizations, as I told you, are owned by multinational corporations, or what we call them now as multi-billion-dollar corporations. That means that they are involved in number of businesses apart from media. Okay, they are very powerful people, and they influence the decision making process, policies of general. They also manipulate with the thought process of the people. That means they make sure that the makers of the news, that means or the journalists, they take a corporate stand and present the news in their favor, biased. So this is a drawback of international communication, the ownership pattern. Okay. So any doubts in this organization? Just remember the main aim of this organization is just to promote international communication and also the safeguarding of human rights. That means freedom of speech and expression. Any doubts? Okay, let me know if you have any doubts or you want to discuss anything. You're clear with the subject, right? Are you able to
Madam,
understand?
madam, these topics, which unit, madam?
One second. Page number 64, right?
Your
Unit? Unit 7. Page
Unit
number
7,
64.
madam. Okay, okay.
Page number 64.
yeah,
Unit
7, ma'am. 7.
Madam,
International media
today
and
only
other
unit
organizations.
7, madam.
Yeah, Unit 7.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, I told you WTO is important topic and UNESCO from examination point of view. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. So if you don't have any doubts, you're done with the class, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Where are others? Nadia, Amjad. Ramesh, please respond. Shall we end the class?
Nadia and Amjad unmute.
Okay. Shall we end the class now?
Okay, madam.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Dirisha? Dirisha? Number